We're gathered here in this space to remind ourselves of those things which keep us grounded on our journey through life each day. And they say, if you don't have health, you don't have anything. And it's true. But our consciousness and our spirituality go hand in hand with this first value. The Congo Committee on Spirituality, Values, and Global Concerns and its working group Health, Transformation, and Spirituality, as well as the Association for Trauma Outreach and Prevention and Meaningful World, invites you here today to affirm, reinforce, and commit to these three crucial values of health, consciousness, and spirituality, and in doing so, lay the foundation for a better future. So we will now open with interfaith prayer by Reverends Engel, Lyra, and Mark. Everyone, welcome, and thank you very much.
Thank you for coming this morning. And now we pray. To Creator of all, I pray that our minds continue to be open, spacious, and awake, and like a clean and empty vessel that fills with water. May our hearts and minds be filled with sublime thoughts of love, compassion, peace, and kindness. And may we recognize the divine that we have within and realize that we can continue to be gracious.
I want to thank the divine higher powers that be. For us here today, all of us safe. It's beautiful Saturday morning, beautiful weather, and such a wonderful event about spirituality, transformation. And we want to pray that what we learn here today, we're able to take out into the world and to spread values, consciousness, and spirituality.
And everyone take a deep breath in. And allow your minds to open, your hearts to open, enabling us to receive what we need to today in this program. And together we say amen.
Amen.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to present to you our first three speakers. Scott Carlin, PhD, who for the past 15 years has worked in a variety of projects advocating for sustainable development principles on Long Island, and he's also an associate professor of geography at C.W. Post of Long Island University. Also our shamanic drummer, Peter Maniscalco. He has 28 years of shamanic experience in the U.S., Mexico, and the Amazon jungle of Ecuador and Peru. His essays on integrating environmentalism and spirituality and his shamanic experiences to protect the environment have been published widely, as well as Candace Morano, who will be presenting yoga poses that will coordinate with the shamanic drumming. And she is a certified yoga teacher, educational kinesiologist, and has a master's in social work from NYU. Thank you.
Good morning. So we have a multi-sensory experience for you today. Peter Maniscalco will be leading you in a shamanic drumming, and for that drumming, he would ask that you close your eyes and journey with him for a few minutes as you experience the power of those drums. For those of you who don't wish to participate in that way, if you'd like to keep your eyes open, we also have with us Candace, who will be doing a wonderful set of yoga moves for us and enlightening our hearts that way. I just want to offer a couple of preliminary comments very quickly before we get going with the drumming. And I want to also reaffirm what the three speakers who just introduced the day to us offered. That we're here today to really come from our hearts, and we're trying to find a way forward in this crazy world that seems to only get crazier all around us. And if we're just out looking at the world externally surrounding us, we just get caught up in all that craziness. And so part of what we're here today to do is to just come back to our own center and find our own sense of balance in the world from within us. It's an interior journey that we're trying to achieve in this brief introductory comment. I just want to close with a quick quote from a film some of you may have seen called One, the Movie. And this is offered by a woman named Dragonfly in that film. All of us are just this huge, massive puzzle. Each one of us is a different piece. That's our I. The thing is that you need to be able to understand your little piece and see what you look like, and also see all the pieces around you, so that you can see how you fit in without trying to mimic all the pieces or change your piece. And then you've got the part of you that's connected, which is the little edges of the little pieces of the puzzle. But we can't just focus externally on all those edges. We've got to come to that place also from deep within us. Peter and I hail from Long Island. I've worked for many years with Peter. He's a colleague, friend, and mentor. And we've just met Candace here today. And we hope you enjoyed this journey with us.
Shamanic drumming, for those of you who will participate, I would just ask you to close your eyes and allow the beat of the drum to move your consciousness.
Dr. Ani Kalajian. And she's dedicated her spirit to helping others overcome the effects of trauma and disaster in their lives. And her work extends to outreach projects in Sierra Leone, Haiti, and Armenia, as well as work here in her home in the United States, in New Jersey. And she's always working, she's always very focused, she's always very driven. And I think it should be noted that she also possesses a Master and Doctor of Education from the Teachers College at Columbia University. And her hands-on work is also impressively complemented by published books such as Forgiveness and Reconciliation, and the works focus on psychology and emotional healing. And she also recently received the Honorary Human Rights Award in Washington, D.C. Her dedication and her intelligence will surely speak for itself, and she has touched the lives of many others, and I hope that she will reach out to you today. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ani Kalajian.
It's a great pleasure for me to see everybody here, and it's such a beautiful morning, and we're grateful to the universe, to the gods, deeply to you. And we'd like to now move on to our wonderful panel. Good morning, Mother. I'd like to call the speakers to the podium. Dr. Majid Ali, Dr. Queen Mother Blakely, and Denise Lalonde. Could you please come to the podium so we can continue with our program to discuss our morning panel's theme, which is healing through consciousness raising. What we will do is we will have the speakers have 10 minutes to present their work. After that, we have 3 questions that we're going to ask the speakers, the panelists, and they're going to respond to the best of their knowledge and experiences. So with that, let me start the introduction. I will start with Dr. Majid Ali, who's an author of over 50 books and president of Institute of Integrative Medicine in New York and New Jersey, and as well as having educational show on science, health, and healing on WBAI. I have been having the pleasure to be one of his guests, and it's a very, whenever I have time, I'm always on WBAI dial, and please, if you're not a listener, turn on and you will learn a lot through his almost 40 years of experiences. He has been through the traditional path, and he has learned a lot from the shortcomings of the medical discipline, and therefore he started his Integrative Institute, and his presentations and his writings and his radio show reflect that deeper understanding and integration and connection of the mind, body, and soul. So please, everybody, give a big applause to welcome Dr. Majid Ali. Like this sideways so that.
Good morning. I'm deeply grateful to Professor Anika and other people who have organized this conference. It's most heartwarming to hear the word consciousness in the forum of the United Nations. What have I achieved? Professor Blakely was very gracious in her interview and her introduction of me, talking about what I've achieved. I think most of all, tomorrow is going to be my 70th birthday. So the most important thing I have achieved in the last 70 years is awareness of my own confusion and shortcomings. Since the subject is consciousness of health, consciousness is a very tedious word. I've tried to hassle with it many times, and each time I've given up. Health is, I think, easier to work with. So I'll spend a few minutes on health, and then then perhaps I can try to look at this tedious concept of consciousness. When I started out, it seemed very simple. People who were writing about consciousness, they said consciousness is awareness. That makes sense. But awareness of what? That's where the problem is. Health, I think, is easy to say. Health is separation from one's nature. I mean, that's the best. I was a pathologist. Before that, I was a surgeon in England. So I have wrestled with this problem of health as a surgeon, as a pathologist, as a practitioner of integrative medicine. So the best definition I can come up is health is separation from one's nature, and disease would be separation from nature. So disease is a state of separation from one's nature. Intensity of disease would then be the degrees of separation from one's nature. And of course, one's nature is being part of a larger whole. So we really cannot talk about an individual's nature without talking about the community of people that he happens to be in. And in the larger context, the community of life around us, which would be other people, plants, animals, deep ocean, energetics and economy, and ecologic systems. It's hard to speak these days without what's happening in Gulf impinging upon you. So if that is health, then I think the best definition of consciousness for me would be to awareness of my own nature. And the demons also inhabit everyone's nature, at least mine do. So struggle with your demons and coming to grips with your own nature. I think that's worth spending a lifetime. The largest challenge, as I look back, it's easy to talk about, okay, when I passed my examination for the board certification in England, I was 26. And so I remember I was flying high, the youngest person in our country to become certified in surgery in England. So there are these milestones, and we celebrate those milestones. And in some ways it's good for the family. But I think the larger challenge that has preoccupied me is how to be utterly comfortable with my own insignificance. How to be utterly convinced of my significance, as well as my utter insignificance. For example, let's say I'm seeing a child with asthma. So trying to come up with ideas to prevent asthma and allow this child to grow to a healthy person, well, I'm significant there. If I'm presenting a radio essay, let's say on Gulf on WBI, and if people are listening, then I am significant for that 1 hour. But then there is a larger mountain of insignificance. It doesn't matter how much you think you achieve. And in that range of uncertainty, certainty one way that you are insignificant, uncertainty, what does that mean? That's where I think the flowering occurs. That's where we all bloom. And that's where no one is meaner than anyone else. And no one is holier than anyone else. And so that's the struggle, my struggle. Consciousness. As I said, I will find the word morality and consciousness very tedious words. And I've realized that I'm fascinated by the ancient history. Before the Jewish people appeared, before the Hindu people appeared, before the Christians appeared, before the Muslims appeared. I'm talking about now something like, let's say 8,000 years before, and before that, the Nubian and the pre-Nubian culture. That's my preoccupation these days. So I imagine in my mind that there was this concept of tribal chiefdom. Undoubtedly, there were some people who were miscast. How many time do you have? 2 more minutes? Good.
I was just gonna do this.
So I have to finish now, consciousness, about 2 minutes. Which is just about the time that I think I should give. So I visualize that there is an African chief. I visualize we are about 15,000 years ago in the past. I visualize that this old chief has a certain sense of the needs of the newborn in the tribe. A little girl, a little boy, an old woman, arthritic woman, a man with rickety legs, an older person, cataract, can't see, sometimes just swollen, and just about it. But he had a certain sense of what are the consequences of his actions. And he must have also had sense. What are the consequences of his inaction? So to me, the best workable simplicity about this complex concept of consciousness is awareness of what the consequences of my actions are on others, as well as of my inaction when the action is necessary. Now, if you put the two things together, there's one beautiful word which says it all, and that's called ethics. So then, as I try to reflect on the problems, whether it is my own country, Pakistan, which has been disintegrated, but decisions made in Washington, or whether we're talking about the belly of the ocean has been stabbed by eco-monsters, very much like a drunkard medic might open the belly of a fallen soldier on the battleground. He's never been trained how to do it. So, in each case, the word ethics is easy to deal with. I'm going to stop here. So that's my definition: to be within one's nature and to be aware of one's consequences of one's actions on others, as well as the consequences of one's inaction on others. Thank you.
Dr. Ali, I must say that I was, because I was on WBAI and Dr. Majid Ali announced the conference, I was receiving 54 calls a day, people asking, we heard that Dr. Majid Ali is going to speak at the UN, where is it, when is it? So I'm grateful for disseminating the information to people. Today is lunar eclipse. So we ask that the moon goddess, with her glowing, gleaming beams, lay her kisses upon us and nurture our growth and raise our consciousness and help us grow within. With that, I'd like to invite Dr. and Goddess Queen, Dr. Blakely, who is the Queen Mother of Harlem, and she's a community leader and has worked with over 50 states and leaders around the world. And I met Dr. Blakely at Teachers College, Columbia University, when last December at the Humiliation Prevention Conference when we were presenting on forgiveness. And she was blessing us with her experience of working with inner city children and adolescents in Harlem. So please give a big welcome to Queen Mother, Dr. Blakely.
The journey is what I represent. I represent 55 million African descendants of the Middle Passage of the transatlantic ocean of enslavement. In that journey, it brought me to a place called the United Nations for about 40 years. In that journey, it took me 7,000 feet above sea level in Hopi land and Navajo land. In that journey, it took me to the Nile of Queen Haship's suit in that journey in search for consciousness of a people to be made whole again. Bring peace and tranquility to the human experience, which is the world. In that journey, there was others on that journey, and one made their transition just yesterday. In that journey, there was a celebration that we all were a part of until about 3 o'clock in the morning. In the spirit of an ancestor, Michael Jackson, in the streets of Harlem, the world gathered in that journey. In that journey, when we speak of life, when we speak of health, we must also speak of sacredness. Health is life. Life is sacred. Life is godly in that journey. In that journey, there is oneness in that journey. There is no separation in that journey. In that journey, there is no such thing as dis-ease. Dis-ease, which you call disease. There is no such thing in that journey. In that journey, how do we love, respect, not only ourselves, but each other? How do we see each other in that journey? It is a journey when we speak of health, when we speak of wellness. It is a journey. It's only a journey. Beginning and end of all life. It's just a journey. How do we respect that journey? How we interpret that journey? That journey is you and it's me. Health is life. Life, I said, is sacred. Life is godly. And when you're on that sacred journey, you will feel good. You will eat right. You will be so conscious. Certain things you don't put into your temple or your sacred space. It will reject it on that journey. That is a conscious journey. That is an emotional journey. It is a human journey. It is a spiritual journey. Health is life. Life is sacred. Life is godly. Stay on the sacred journey of life.
That was very profound. In fact, it is a journey, and thank you for sharing this journey with us, Dr. Blakely. And with love and sacredness, we will be mindful of what we do, what we say, what comes out of our mouth, what goes into our mouth, collectively and sacredly. Thank you very much. And our next speaker is Denise Lalonde from Lalonde Consulting and Coaching Services, who has been passionate for coaching and facilitating and letting people communicate in a healthy and sacred way. And she's going to do a short 10-minute experiential exercise with us. So it's a great pleasure for me to introduce you, and please help me welcome Ms. Lalonde.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. First, I feel very inspired and very humbled by the esteemed colleagues on the panel. I come from a little bit different kind of background. Just a little bit of background about how I came on this journey is back in 2001. I had spent 7 years in corporate consulting, and I was finding it just wasn't really working for me. It just didn't feel right. My passion wasn't there. And in corporate consulting, it's about finding the problem and going in and fixing problems. And it was about doing it to people as opposed to with people. And so post 9/11, my office was right next door, and I was listening to your video before, Dr. Annie, where you were saying everybody was pitching together and working together. And why did it have to be just post-trauma where that lifestyle was existing? And think about the average workplace. There are so many people. I think Margaret Wheatley calls it the warm chair syndrome. The bodies are present, but the soul, the consciousness is elsewhere. And so I was looking for ways to create workplaces and communities and just so a way to connect in a more healthy way, where it was collaborative, where people were co-creating the future that they were looking for. So over quite a few years, I started doing research. I found all kinds of different ways. I've been in this room before, receiving different kinds of trainings. And finally, I found an approach called appreciative inquiry. This comes out of an organizational development approach that comes out of Case Western University, begun by Dr. David Cooperrider. He had gone in to do a traditional intervention in the Cleveland Clinic, and he was asking, what are the problems? But people kept telling him stories of what was working. And so he went back to his dissertation advisor and he said, what do I do? And he said, well, why don't you study what's working? So he went in there, and as he continued to ask questions of what was working, what was giving life to that organization, the productivity kept going up. And so things became even healthier in the environment as they studied what was working. So sort of tying this into the spirituality and health, what they found is Gallup organization did some research back in 2003. And they found that 29% of the U.S. workforce, only 29%, were actively engaged in their work. 55% were not engaged, and 16% were actively disengaged. And what kind of impact does that have? On average, they were saying that the actively engaged were only absent 2.9 days per year, were only actively disengaged were absent 6.9 days per year. And they also spoke about that it was costing on productivity because disengaged workers actually actively create issues in the workplace, costing over $350 billion a year in lost productivity. So it is about, with the work that I do, I feel it's so impactful in that it creates connection in the workplace. And it creates connection with whoever's involved in it. So I would like to give you this experience. I would like for you, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to turn to a partner, and you're going to interview the partner using this question. There's a little bit of a setup, but throughout your personal, educational, or professional career, you've probably experienced ups and downs, twists and turns. For a moment, I would like for you to think about a time that stands out for you as a high point, a time when you felt most alive, most inspired, most energized, and most proud. Turn to your partner now and tell the story of that high point moment, a time when you felt most alive, most inspired, most proud. Describe the situation in detail, and what is it about that experience that made it a high point? So 2 minutes each way. So give that a shot. Turn to somebody and share that So think about every day how many questions we ask, and how do we ask those questions? Right? Are the questions that we ask energy takers, energy zappers, or are they kinds of questions that lift people up? One of the favorite, I can't remember which of the practitioners, but he said he used to go home, during the day, every night, and he'd ask his kids, how was school today? Fine. And so he said, what was the best thing about school today? And the kid just opened up, blossomed, and it raised the energy at the dinner table, you could be sure. And so this is what the type of work that we're all trying, those who practice appreciative inquiry, to bring out to the world. Imagine if we were to focus on this in the school systems, and in government, how it could raise energy. And so I know, I'm not sure if anybody's here from the Brahma Kumari community, but they are also, there's an association to the UN, and they also bring this work and host conversations with this as sort of a support of the practice. So I will close now and go over.
Now we have 3 questions. We're going to ask the panelists to kind of brainstorm around these questions. The first one is of course, these questions are based on our goals for the conference. How does consciousness impact health? Perhaps you can give personal examples or examples from the people that you have helped transform or journey. Some specific exercise, anything that you wish, just to give a little clarification on that.
I did bring something that you can take home, and there are 2 pieces of paper here. So after the conference, I'll leave them here. And there's something practical that you can, I think you will find, most of you will find it useful, and most of you never tried that would actually be quite surprised. So I thought this is what I would do about myself, and this is called Thursday. So I'm just going to read it to you. And I guess will answer the question about health and consciousness in a different way than I tried in the first day. Thursday. Love is to celebrate a crystal without creed, a dewdrop without color, a raven without race, a lily without law, a river without religion. So that's love. Love is to be a Muslim on Fridays, a Christian, a Jew on Saturdays, a Christian on Sundays, a Hindu on Mondays, a Buddha on Tuesdays, an agnostic on Wednesdays, and nobody on Thursday. What day makes my day? Might it be a Thursday, a day to be a nobody? told you, the most important thing I've learned is about my own confusion. So I write these few things. Thursday, a day 4, the language of silence, the commerce of compassion, a day to live, a day to love, a day to be true, Gideon life, a day to be a nobody. So, nice to be giddy and be a nobody. Thursday, a day 4, trancing in every shrine, far, far from the mind of the malign, softly sublimating into the heart of the divine, a day for love, a love that only soul can refine, on the way to be a nobody.
Thank you. In the spirit of Queen Mother Moore, who lived to be almost 100, as conscious. And I'm almost now carrying her age and carrying the age of the Queen Mother in the Shanti Kingdom in Ghana. That makes me, I guess, my earth age, or close to 70. And with the 2 Queen Mothers that I carry their energy, I guess I'm close to about 370 years old. So conscious. I could do this. Conscious, I could still do this. I don't think today that I would go and ride a horse with Prince, I think it's Harry in Harlem today, riding a horse. Queen Mother wouldn't do that right now, but I have a sense of what that is. What I'm basically saying to you, based on the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the earth energy that awakens us for our reflections, we become conscious of what we eat, what we put in. Alkaline our system with alkaline water instead of acidity water that you drink. You become conscious of agave instead of white sugar. You become conscious of what you look for. Because of that consciousness began in reflection, began in you, what you look like. You know, we like looking good, don't we? And we like to see people that are looking good. So that's conscious. And living longer is also conscious. And the reflection of those who did live long are living longer in life. So consciousness is very important for wellness.
As you were going through and telling your story, think about what it did to your energy. And actually, there was a young lady from Ghana who they were in school in a nonprofit class, and they wanted to use this approach, appreciative inquiry, to do their paper. And so I met with them to sort of coach them, and I said, well, have you ever experienced the interview? And so I just had them interview each other. And the young woman was about 24 years old, and she told the story about how she had wanted to go back and build a school back in her home country. And her mom had been pretty successful, and they had moved here. So her mother goes, you raise the money for the building, and I will provide the land. So at 24, she had already gone back and built a school in Ghana. And as she told the story, she was glowing. The energy was so huge. Her colleague, who was significantly older, was in awe. I was in awe. And I had gone there very, very low energy. You know, it's like, okay, yeah, I committed to this. It was such a gift to me to hear her story that I became more energetic and then went home and accomplished all kinds of things. So to what degree do we find that energy, and does that have an impact on our health? I'm pretty darn sure it does. Since I've been following this path, I've been relatively healthy. know, people are getting colds and they're sick for 2-3 weeks. I might get a little cold and it lasts a couple of days, you know, but I've been able to keep going. And just from a world health perspective, a colleague who practices this.
Next, we'd like to hear from the panelists specific approaches. Some of you already mentioned some of those. What they found, what you have found helpful in your attempt to raise your own consciousness or helping others raise their consciousness. Any specific examples? Like you brought one, perhaps others can share other examples to generate a little bit more deeper interest.
Right, like for instance, in my own consciousness, and I want to raise the consciousness of those in my community. And especially I'm hanging out with the hip hop generation, I'm clubbing it now. And I'm in the club that they do a lot of drinking for whatever reason. And they would say, Queen Mother, what would you like? If you're gonna give me a little cranberry juice, put some extra water in it, you know, and put some lemon in it. And then I may say, you want to try it? You know, let's see. And they're like, okay, it's nice that you're here to be with us, but we do something differently. But you still chip away with the consciousness coming from you to the others. Okay, like someone said last night, Queen Mother, no, salt is not good for you. I say, sea salt is. In the Bible, you know, everything was about sea salt. And to preserve is salt, but it's sea salt. So there again, I think the consciousness is the conversation that we have with each other. And it's very important that that dialogue is not only you're reinforcing your own consciousness of good health, but also you get a chance to practice on someone else, which is important to do, to maintain your own health.
Those of you who have a pen, if you want to write this down, please. It's www.kids123.org. Kids123.org. It's a website devoted to problems of children. So the story that I'm going to relate exactly, give an example. Dr. Ben, whose story I'm going to tell you, he was my guest, and you can listen to that program online on that website. If you go on that website, it has an icon for it. Kids, www.kids123.org. Now, if you go there, there is an icon for radio programs. These are the archives. And if you look, it would, one of the radio programs is about Dr. Ben heals his mother. And so I'm going to take just 2 minutes to tell you this story, and if it encourages you and inspires you, then you can go on that and listen to the whole program. I hope you do. When Dr. Ben starts, he's a little bit tentative, and then towards the end, the beauty really comes through. So now I have 1.5 minutes to tell you the story. So I saw this woman, and
Would you like to come to the
yes,
center? Some people
yes.
on the other
So,
side struggling.
I saw this woman in her about late 40s, and she had been hospitalized. She had an ulcer. She got hospitalized a second time, bleeding ulcer. She had problems of chronic fatigue, brain fog, concentration, muscle pain, joint pain, the usual stuff. A huge number of people are really so toxic. It doesn't terribly matter what the diagnostic label is. The point is they're very sick. They're disabled, they're dysfunctional, they can't sleep, they can't do any work. So as I was listening to her, there was Dr. Ben in the room, and I thought that I needed some help. Because I thought that the usual things, we talk about rebounding, we talk about castor oil rubs, we talk about aloe water. There are many things that we do, but I thought that this is such an extraordinary circumstance. She needs to be in a hospital, except there are no, in our great land, there are no hospitals where people like this can go and heal. So in my desperation, I'm looking for, it just takes me 10 seconds to write up a program. That's not an issue. But my problem was, she needs hospitalized care, and I don't have access to that. Now what do I do? So I looked at Dr. Ben, and I said, I really need a personal assistant. Your mom is very sick. We'll do the things that we have to do, but I need a personal assistant. I need a personal assistant at her home. We have to turn her home into a hospital, into a healing place. Would you be my personal assistant? And he looked at me. There was this kind of an order spec request. And finally, he said yes.